McLaren's early dominance in the 2025 Formula One season has left fans, analysts and rival teams alike scratching their heads. They've won all but one of the opening 5 races, and the speed and consistency of their MCL39 car, especially during race conditions, has been nothing short of remarkable. What makes this even more fascinating is how much of their success seems to be coming not from raw engine power or even radical aerodynamic upgrades, but from something far more subtle and clever: their brake system. More specifically, it's about how McLaren has mastered thermal management and how they've built a brake system so intricate, so effective, that it's giving them a huge advantage over the competition when it comes to managing tyre performance. And that advantage is most evident during Grand Prix races, where tyre temperatures are critical. To understand what McLaren has done, we need to first look back at 2 key races this season: Australia and Bahrain. In both events, the McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, demonstrated an astonishing turn of speed. In Australia, on a damp but drying track, the McLaren duo were pulling out gaps of nearly a second per lap on the rest of the field. And in Bahrain, even though Mercedes' George Russell managed to keep pace in qualifying, over the course of the race, Piastri gradually pulled away from him in both stints before and after the safety car period. The key factor that links these 2 races: tyre thermal management. These were races where managing tyre temperature was essential for maintaining grip and preventing degradation. And McLaren, through some very smart engineering, seems to have found a way to do it better than anyone else. Now let's get into the details of this so-called secret trick that McLaren has embedded into their MCL39. It starts with the brake system. Modern F1 brake systems are extremely complex. They're made up of several core components: brake calipers, brake discs, brake pads, and the brake drum. Each of these components is housed within specific carbon fiber coverings and ducts designed not only to handle heat, but also to guide airflow in very precise ways. In McLaren's case, what makes their setup so unique is how they've designed these ducts and coverings to achieve something most other teams haven't even attempted yet: active thermal control that's perfectly balanced for race conditions. Let's break this down even further. One key part of the brake system is the caliper. This component can reach temperatures as high as 200 degrees Celsius during a race, and if left unchecked, it can transfer a significant amount of heat to the wheel rims and tires, which can lead to overheating. What McLaren has done is create a system where cool air is being funneled directly into the caliper housing, effectively cooling it down, before it can pass that heat onto the tire. This area is quite exposed, even with the tire mounted, and McLaren has shaped the ducting in such a way that it maximizes the airflow through the caliper. But that's just the beginning. The next piece of the puzzle involves how that air flows. After it's passed through the caliper, McLaren's engineers have created an additional internal cavity within the brake assembly, between what is often referred to as the cake tin and the rest of the carbon fiber casing. This cavity allows air to flow through in a very controlled way, essentially creating a vacuum-like cooling effect. It's not just that the air is being used to cool the brakes, it's that it's being used to prevent that heat from ever reaching the tires. This separation is crucial because it ensures the brakes operate within optimal temperatures, while the tires are protected from any excess heat that could compromise grip and wear. To be clear, all F1 teams use brake ducts and attempt to manage heat flow. But what sets McLaren apart is the level of precision they've achieved. Their system is not just about getting air in, it's about getting the right amount of air to exactly the right places at exactly the right temperatures. Too much cooling can be just as bad as too little. If you overcool the brakes, especially over a race distance, you lose efficiency. If you undercool them, the brakes and tires both suffer. McLaren appears to have found the perfect balance. And what's more, this isn't a setup that can easily be copied mid-season. That's a key part of why this innovation is so impactful. Rival teams would need to completely redesign the front end of their cars, including the brake ducts, calipers, and even parts of the suspension, to accommodate such an advanced cooling system. With over 20 races still to go this season, it might seem tempting to try, but in reality, no team is likely to dedicate the time and resources to chase a brake system upgrade that might only be relevant for one season, especially not with the 2026 regulation changes looming on the horizon. So what does this mean in terms of actual performance? Well, we've already seen it in action. The McLaren drivers can push harder, for longer, in races where tyre degradation is a limiting factor. While other cars start to lose grip and struggle with overheating, the McLarens keep going at a consistent pace. That's why their race pace has been significantly stronger than their qualifying pace. In qualifying, everyone has fresh tyres and a low-fuel car. But in the race, when managing tyres becomes critical, McLaren's advantage comes to the forefront. This was evident in Bahrain, where George Russell managed to nearly match Piastri in qualifying, but couldn't keep up in the race. Over multiple stints with different tyre compounds, the McLaren was simply more stable, more consistent, and more efficient. And that's not just about driver skill. It's a direct result of how well the car manages its tyres, lap after lap. Let's not forget the opening race in Australia either. In changing track conditions with moisture still present, McLaren's tyre control allowed them to find grip where others couldn't. On a track that was gradually drying, they were able to keep their tyres in the optimal temperature window, while everyone else was struggling with cold fronts and overheating rears. It was during this Grand Prix that fans and experts alike started to really take notice of what McLaren was doing differently. Another factor to consider is consistency over long runs. In a 300-kilometer Grand Prix, tyre wear isn't just about outright pace, it's about how much grip you can maintain over time. If your tyres overheat early in the stint, you're forced to back off, which ruins your strategy. If you can manage that heat, you can push longer, delay your pit stop, and undercut or overcut your rivals. That's exactly what McLaren has been doing this season. They're not just faster, they're smarter in how they use their pace. This technical advantage also translates into a psychological one. When rival teams know that McLaren will be strong in the second half of a race, they're forced to take more risks early on,